Okay, so here's the thing about the Andrew Tate case that literally nobody is talking about correctly, and I'm going to explain why in the next 15 minutes. But first, you need to understand the problem we're dealing with here. Right now, if you go on YouTube and search for Andrew Tate, you're going to find three completely different videos about the exact same case. Not three different opinions about the case, not three different perspectives on the same facts, but three completely different versions of reality. Video number one, let's call it the defense perspective. It tells you that Andrew Tate is innocent and being persecuted by the system. It talks about how he's being attacked in jail, how his safety is at risk, how the prosecution has no real evidence, how this is all political persecution, and how the system is trying to break him. Video number two, let's call it the prosecution perspective. It tells you the exact opposite. It says Andrew Tate is guilty of human trafficking and rape. Here's the proof, here are the victims, here's exactly what he did, and the case is clear cut. And video number three, the timeline perspective, it doesn't tell you either of those things. It just walks you through what actually happened chronologically. Here's when he was arrested, here's what the charges are, here's where the case is now, here's what we know and what we don't know, and it's complicated and still ongoing. Now here's what really gets me about this. These three videos are not just different interpretations of the same facts, they're fundamentally different narratives. If you only watch video one, you will be completely convinced he's innocent. If you only watch video two, you will be completely convinced he's guilty. If you only watch video three, you'll be confused about which side is right, but they're all covering the same case. They're all working with overlapping sets of facts. They're just interpreting those facts through completely different lenses. So the question is, which one is actually telling you the truth? And more importantly, why is it that three different creators can cover the same legal case and tell completely opposite stories? That's what we're breaking down today. And trust me, the answer might frustrate you because it's not as simple as any of these videos make it sound. Alright, so let's start with video one, the defense perspective. This video frames the entire case like this. Andrew Tate is being attacked. His safety is at risk in jail. The prosecution has no real evidence. This is political persecution. The system is trying to break him. And the media is complicit in painting him as guilty before trial. Now, here's what's interesting. Video one is not completely wrong. It's raising real concerns that actually do exist in the justice system. Prison safety for inmates accused of sexual crimes is a real concern. Solitary confinement can be psychologically damaging. The legal standard of innocent until proven guilty is a real and important principle. Long court delays are concerning. These things are all true, but here's where the bias starts showing up. The video spends approximately 38 minutes talking about prison conditions, legal procedures, media bias, and the defendant's statements. In those 38 minutes, it talks about his safety concerns, solitary confinement conditions, quotes from his lawyer, prime minister statements, comparisons to other cases, how the system is unfair to defendants' procedural problems. That's 38 minutes. But the video spends approximately 0 minutes talking about the substance of the case. It doesn't talk about who the victims are. It doesn't explain what the actual allegations specifically say. It doesn't discuss what evidence the prosecution has. It doesn't explain the charges beyond just naming them. It doesn't give you the victim perspective at all. And it doesn't engage with the most serious allegations, which involve sexual abuse of minors. So you're getting exactly 50% of the case. You're hearing all about legal procedure and defense perspective, but you're hearing nothing about allegations and prosecution perspective. Now let me give you specific examples of the bias showing up. The video claims that Andrew Tate is in SHU, the Special Housing Unit, which the video describes as the highest level of security that exists. The video says it's super dark, cockroaches everywhere, bed bugs, lice, complete isolation, 23 hours locked down per day, basically torture. But here's what I looked up. Andrew Tate is being held at FDC Miami, the Federal Detention Center in Miami. That's classified as an administrative security facility in the U.S. federal prison system. Now in the U.S. federal system, prisons are classified like this: minimum security, low security, medium security, high security, administrative security, maximum security, and supermax. FDC Miami is administrative security, which is number 5 on that list. Supermax, which is ADX Florence, is the actual highest level of security that exists. So either Andrew Tate doesn't understand the U.S. prison classification system, or he's exaggerating the conditions, or he's describing the wrong facility. But either way, the claim that he's in the highest level of security that exists is not accurate. And that matters because the entire emotional argument of the video, they're torturing him, depends on that claim being true. If he's not in the worst possible conditions, then the emotion is based on false information. Here's another example. The video relies very heavily on Andrew Tate's lawyer, Joseph McBride, to tell us what's happening in the case. His lawyer says things like the case file is empty and there's no evidence against us and this is persecution. But here's the thing. Joseph McBride is being paid money to defend Andrew Tate. That's his job. His job is not to tell you the truth about whether his client is innocent or guilty. His job is to defend his client. So when his lawyer says there's no evidence against us, he's not giving you objective analysis. He's giving you a legal argument. It's the same as asking a football coach, do you think your team will win the Super Bowl? Of course he's going to say yes. That's his job. The video presents his lawyer's arguments as if they're neutral commentary when really they're paid opinions. And the video doesn't distinguish between those two things. Here's a third example. The video presents a clip of the UK Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, talking about Andrew Tate. The Prime Minister says something like, Andrew Tate's influence on young men is harmful and we need to counter that influence. We're spending money on educational programs to provide better messaging. And the video frames this as evidence of political persecution. It says, see, the government is targeting him for being influential. But wait, let's actually think about what the Prime Minister said. He said that Tate's influence is harmful. That's an opinion. And he said the government wants to counter that with better messaging. That's not persecution, that's just disagreement. That's like me saying, I think Elon Musk's influence on people is negative and I want to counter it with better information. That's not persecution of Elon Musk. That's just me having a different opinion and wanting to change hearts and minds. But the video treats the Prime Minister's disagreement as evidence of persecution, and that's a biased interpretation. Now, here's what Video 1 never mentions at all. It never talks about the victims by name. It never explains what they allege happened. It never gives you their perspective. It never addresses the most serious allegations, which are about sexual abuse of minors. It never mentions that there are video recordings allegedly showing this abuse. It never engages with Andrew Tate's own statements about his business model, where he talks about learning how to make sure girls can't run away, and retaining 100% control of their income and turning them into cash cows. The video just completely ignores all of that because it would undermine the sympathetic narrative it's trying to build. So here's my actual critique of Video 1. It's not lying, it's not making things up, but it's profoundly incomplete. It's looking at this case through a kaleidoscope where you can only see red. Everything you see in that kaleidoscope is actually there, but you're only seeing the red parts. You're not seeing the blue parts or the green parts or the yellow parts. You're seeing 20% of the case and presenting it as the whole case. And because it's presented so convincingly, with sad music, with clips of the defendant, with footage of the jail, with quotes from his lawyer, you feel like you're getting the truth. But you're getting selected truth. You're getting the case filtered through one lens, and that lens is designed specifically to make you sympathize with the defendant. So Video 1's bias score is 9 out of 10. It's heavily skewed toward the defense. It's not lying, but it's incomplete and selective. Okay, so Video 2 is basically the exact opposite direction. Where Video 1 says he's innocent and being persecuted, Video 2 says he's guilty and here's the proof. And here's the first interesting thing. Video 2 actually provides more specific detail than Video 1. Video 1 is abstract. It talks about procedures and persecution in general terms. Video 2 is concrete. It talks about specific victims, specific allegations, specific evidence. So let me walk you through what Video 2 presents because this is important. Video 2 explains something called the lover boy method. This is allegedly how Andrew and Tristan Tate recruited victims. They would find young women online. They'd present themselves as romantic interests, promise them relationships, love, emotional connection, build their trust, make them feel special, make them feel like they're falling in love with someone successful. Then invite them to Romania with promises of real relationships and career opportunities. Once they arrived in Romania, far from home in a foreign country, the brothers would introduce them to webcam work. Hey, you could make money doing this. Look how much these other girls make. You should try it. Once they started, the coercion begins. You owe us for the flight, you owe us for living here, everyone else is doing this. If you want to stay here, you need to keep earning. Isolation from family, controlling their money, making them dependent. Then the women perform on webcam, men pay to watch, the Tate brothers take most of the money. Now, Video 2 claims this isn't speculation. Video 2 claims Andrew Tate himself has explained this system in videos, and here's him talking about it. I created a system that allowed me to convince girls to do this, allowed me to retain 100% control of their income, allowed me to make sure they were effective because it's a super competitive industry. And then, I learned how to make sure the girl can't run away. Because once you teach a girl how to do this, she has the ability to make unlimited money from home. Why would she still give it to you? Why would she just run off and keep it all for herself? Why are you getting your percentage? I learned how to do everything to take a nobody and make her a somebody. I learned how to take a nothing, turn it into a cash cow, and betas from all across the world would be sending money into her my bank account. Okay, so when you hear that clip, I get why it sounds damning. It sounds like he's literally confessing to trafficking, but here's where we have to be careful. There's a difference between I built a system to manage cam girls' business and I coerced women into sex work against their will. Those are two different things. Both could be true, but they're not the same thing. The first is harsh business management. The second is human trafficking. And there's a legal distinction. Now, Video 2 also introduces actual alleged victims. There's a case involving a woman from Florida, let's call her Jane Doe. Jane Doe met Tristan Tate online. She thought he was charming and impressive. She felt special when he showed interest in her. He invited her to Romania, paid for her ticket. She went. When she got there, she found a house with multiple young women, all in relationships with one of the brothers, all doing webcam work. There were sex toys around. Everyone was staying up late working. The women seemed stressed and unhappy, a strange dynamic like they were trapped. Jane Doe started having conversations with another woman in the house. When they compared notes, they realized they'd both been lied to. They'd both been promised relationships. They'd both been lured to Romania under false pretenses. They felt trapped. Jane Doe contacted a Marine sergeant friend. He recognized this as human trafficking and reported it to the U.S. Embassy. That triggered a raid. The women were rescued. Jane Doe cooperated with law enforcement. Now, Video 2 uses Jane Doe's story as evidence of trafficking. And on the surface, her story does sound like trafficking. Lured under false pretenses, isolated in a foreign country, pressured into sex work, unable to leave. Those are the hallmarks of human trafficking, but here's what I have to recognize. I'm hearing Jane Doe's story from Video 2. I'm hearing Video 2's interpretation of those events, but I haven't heard the defense's version. I haven't heard cross-examination. The trial hasn't happened, so what I'm hearing is alleged, not proven. Video 2 also mentions something even more serious. An alleged video of Andrew Tate in a sexual situation with a 14 or 15-year-old girl. Andrew's response is, "That video is from 10 years ago. It's me with an ex-girlfriend. That was consensual." But Video 2 does the math on dates and suggests the video is more recent, which would mean she was underage. If true, that's one of the most serious crimes possible. But notice how Video 2 presents this. There's a video, she was 14 or 15, he abused her, case closed. Not he's alleged to have, but he did. Video 2 treats allegations as if they're already proven, and here's the core problem with Video 2. It presents everything as if a trial has already happened and a verdict has already been reached. It doesn't say he's alleged to have trafficked women. It says he trafficked women. It doesn't say victims claim he abused them. It says he abused them. It uses words like absolutely despicable and truly sickening, which are emotional appeals, not evidence. The video doesn't really engage with the defense side at all. In a 40-minute video, you get maybe 5 minutes of Andrew Tate saying, "I deny this." You get 0 minutes of actual defense arguments explaining his side. That's not analysis, that's prosecution advocacy. And here's another thing Video 2 doesn't mention. A Romanian court found problems with the prosecution's case. The court said the case couldn't move forward in its current form because of procedural violations. The court sent the case back to prosecutors. But Video 2 doesn't really address this because it undermines the narrative that guilt is obvious. Video 2 also doesn't explain why someone would publicly confess to human trafficking. If you were really running a trafficking scheme, would you go on the internet and explain the system in detail to thousands of people? Would you brag about it? A real trafficker would probably keep quiet. But Tate openly talked about his business model. That's not explained by Video 2, and here's another thing. Video 2 doesn't really engage with the question of whether victims could be mistaken about details. I'm not saying they are, but trauma affects memory. People can interpret the same events differently. If the defense says it was consensual business and the victim says it was trafficking, how do you actually determine what happened? By cross-examination in court. But Video 2 doesn't leave room for that possibility. It just presents the victim's version as obviously true. So here's my verdict on Video 2. It's showing real allegations with real victims and real evidence. That part is accurate, but it's presenting those allegations as if they're already proven. It's using emotional manipulation to convince you of guilt before a trial has happened. It's not engaging with the defense side at all, and it's presenting a verdict before a trial has finished. Video 2's bias score is 9 out of 10. It's heavily skewed toward conviction. It presents real information but selectively and with emotional framing designed to convince you of guilt. Okay, so Video 3 is completely different. This video doesn't try to convince you of anything. It doesn't try to make you sympathize with the defendant or convict him. It just walks through what actually happened chronologically. And honestly, this is the one that's hardest to make entertaining. Video 3 starts in December 2022. Romanian authorities raid Andrew and Tristan Tate's properties. They arrest the brothers on charges of forming an organized crime group, human trafficking, and sexual exploitation. They're held in police custody. The brothers appear before a judge. They're initially ordered held in detention. They demand release pending trial. Bail hearings happen. The judge decides they can be released, but under conditions. House arrest, reporting to authorities at specific intervals, travel restrictions, prohibition from contacting alleged victims. From March to June 2023, they're on house arrest. Romanian prosecutors continue investigating. They compile evidence. They interview witnesses. In July 2023, Andrew and Tristan file a defamation lawsuit in Florida against one of the women connected to the case. They claim she falsely accused them of imprisoning her and forcing her into sex work. They claim these false accusations triggered the investigation. They sue for millions in damages. Now this is interesting because it shows both sides have legal strategies. Romania is investigating them. They're investigating their accuser, both sides claiming the other is lying. Fast forward to December 2024. A Romanian court makes a major decision. The case cannot move forward in its current form. The court identifies procedural problems, evidence that wasn't collected properly, problems with the indictment structure, violations of defendants' rights. The court sends the case back to prosecutors. Now here's what's important. This doesn't mean the case is dismissed. It doesn't mean Andrew and Tristan are innocent. It doesn't mean the allegations are false. It means the prosecution didn't follow proper procedure, and the court is telling them to fix it and try again. That's how the system is supposed to work. Evidence gets challenged, procedures get examined. If there are problems, you fix them. In February 2025, after being under house arrest for about 2 years, Andrew and Tristan board a private jet and fly to Miami, Florida. Governor Ron DeSantis says they're not welcome. The Florida Attorney General announces an investigation. Andrew is arrested by U.S. Marshals on federal warrants. In May 2025, the UK Crown Prosecution Service releases information about charges it had authorized. 21 charges against Andrew, 11 against Tristan. Rape, sexual assault, human trafficking, trafficking of minors, controlling prostitution for financial gain. Then in July 2026, the UK adds 38 more charges. Now the total is 59 UK charges covering alleged conduct from 2010 to 2017. So now he's facing investigations in Romania, criminal charges in the UK, a state investigation in Florida, and an extradition hearing in U.S. federal court. 4 separate jurisdictions, 4 separate legal battles, and here's what Video 3 does well. It doesn't make conclusions it can't support. It separates allegations from outcomes. It says, here's what happened, here are the charges, here's where the case is, and here's what we don't know yet. It doesn't say he's definitely innocent like Video 1. It doesn't say he's definitely guilty like Video 2. It says the process is ongoing. But here's why Video 3 doesn't go viral. It's boring, there's no hero, no villain, no narrative arc, just facts. And people don't click on facts, people click on narratives. Video 3's bias score is 2 out of 10, it's the closest to neutral. But the problem is it's so neutral it's almost useless. It doesn't help you understand what the facts mean, it just reports them. Okay, so let me separate confirmed facts from disputed facts. Confirmed facts are things that actually happened and nobody really disputes them. Andrew Tate is a public figure who became famous for speaking about masculinity and self-improvement. He got banned from social media platforms. He built a large following. That's all documented. Romania arrested him in December 2022 on organized crime and human trafficking charges. That's documented. He has faced legal proceedings in multiple countries including Romania, UK, Florida, and US federal court. That's documented. There are alleged victims with specific stories who have gone to authorities. That's documented. No completed trial has determined guilt or innocence. That's documented. Those are confirmed. Nobody really disputes those things. Now, strongly alleged but not proven. Multiple victims allege he ran a lover-boy method trafficking scheme. Victims allege he sexually abused minors. Victims allege he exploited them for profit. These allegations are specific and detailed. Multiple people are making them. They sound credible, but they haven't been tested in a trial. Disputed, is his business practice consensual or coercive? Both sides disagree. Was the evidence collected legally? The court found some problems. Is the prosecution politically motivated? He claims yes, they deny it. Unknown. What will a court actually decide? What really happened in private? How much credibility to give each side? What future evidence will emerge? Here's the key insight. Video 1 is treating disputed as if it's confirmed false. Video 2 is treating strongly alleged as if it's confirmed true. Video 3 is correctly acknowledging that these are different categories, so Video 3 is most accurate, but Video 1 and 2 are more entertaining, which is why Video 3 doesn't get viewed as much. The algorithm rewards emotion. It punishes accuracy, and that's the real problem here. Here's what really matters beyond just this case. We have created an information ecosystem that rewards extreme takes and punishes nuance. Video 1 tells a clear story. He's innocent, the system is wrong. That makes people feel sympathetic. People share it. Video 2 tells a clear story. He's guilty, justice is coming. That makes people feel righteous anger. People share it. Video 3 tells the actual story. It's complicated. Here's the timeline. That doesn't make anyone feel strongly. People don't share it. So the algorithm is literally rewarding the most biased content and punishing the most accurate content, which means people who watch Video 1 become convinced he's innocent. People who watch Video 2 become convinced he's guilty. These two groups go online and argue with each other. Meanwhile, the actual court case is just happening in the background. And now we have a situation where the public has already decided guilt or innocence before a trial has finished, based on selective narratives, not based on actual evidence tested in court. This affects jury pools. It affects witness credibility. It affects whether the defendant can get a fair trial. It affects everything. So this isn't just about Andrew Tate. This is about how we've broken our ability to find truth together. We don't have a shared reality anymore. We have competing realities. One group believes one thing, another group believes the opposite, and neither group is willing to acknowledge what's actually uncertain. That's genuinely a crisis, not just for this case, but for how society functions. So here's what I want you to do with this information. First, don't trust any single source. Not me, not Video 1, not Video 2, not Video 3. Don't trust anyone who gives you certainty about what happened, because nobody actually has certainty. What they have is interpretation, and interpretation isn't the same as truth. Second, understand the difference between confirmed, alleged, disputed, and unknown. When something is alleged, don't treat it as confirmed. When something is disputed, don't treat it as decided. When something is unknown, acknowledge that it's unknown. Third, look at multiple perspectives before you form an opinion. See how the defense describes the case. See how the prosecution describes it. See how neutral observers describe it. See how victims describe it. That doesn't mean all perspectives are equally valid, but it means you should see all of them before deciding. Fourth, recognize your own bias. Ask yourself, which version did you want to believe first? If you already believed he was innocent before you researched, you're probably biased toward innocence. If you already believed he was guilty, you're probably biased toward guilt. That doesn't disqualify your opinion, but recognizing it helps. Fifth, wait for trials to finish. I know that's boring, I know you want to know now, but the only way to actually know is to let trials finish. Everything you believe before then is provisional. Sixth, don't attack people who disagree with you. Someone who thinks he's innocent isn't stupid or evil. Someone who thinks he's guilty isn't stupid or evil. They've just been exposed to different narratives. Have a conversation, show them other perspectives, and finally demand better from creators. Stop watching content that prioritizes entertainment over accuracy. Start demanding creators who tell the whole story, not just their side. Share content that's honest, even when it's boring. Here's the honest truth that I want to end with. I don't know if Andrew Tate is guilty or innocent. I've looked at the evidence. I've considered both sides. And I genuinely think it's unclear until a trial finishes. And I think that's okay to say. I think it's more honest than any video that tells you they do know, because they don't. Nobody does, not yet. So if you watch this video and learn something about how to evaluate sources, how to recognize bias, how to distinguish allegations from proof, then share it. Not to convince people to believe what I believe, but to help them think more clearly. Comment below with what you actually think. Not what makes you sound smart, but what you genuinely believe and why. Subscribe if you want analysis that's honest instead of just profitable. And most importantly, wait for the trials to finish. Don't declare victory or defeat before the process is complete. Because the process is where we actually learn what happened. Not YouTube videos, not social media arguments, but actual trials with evidence tested in court. That's where truth lives. See you in the next one.